Sony is making some, we'll say, interesting moves throughout this PlayStation 5 generation. And part of that was them contending with the situation, the pandemic, and just trying to get consoles out there. And even to the point now where they seem to be raising prices halfway through the generation when we normally go the opposite direction. And while that seems to be a big focus right now for people, something else seems to be happening at Sony, and I kind of feel like throughout the rest of this generation going into the next one, there's going to be some pretty big changes and maybe even upgrades depending on how you're looking at it for Sony and what I guess I would call just their PlayStation ecosystem, not necessarily just a PlayStation system. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit here with you guys today and see what you think. So if you enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel. So first things first, something actually popped up yesterday that caught my interest once again, because it's not the first time we've seen this, where this is an exclusive at True Trophies. New data suggests PlayStation PC trophies are in the works. Now, I say this isn't the first time we've seen this, because there was data mining that took place for Marvel Spider-Man Remastered on PC, and trophies were found in it, but nothing really came of that from what I remember. Like, it was never like, oh yeah, there's trophies. You just unlock them and you get them and it's part of your PlayStation account. But what happened at that time was, okay, maybe we're seeing them start to lay the groundwork of their plans for a PC launcher. All right. Well, they say here the very scanners allow us to bring you up to date trophy list directly from the PlayStation Network. Picked up a new PS5 trophy list with an interesting additional platform listed alongside of it, PSPC. The trophy list in question was simply titled Trophy Set and wasn't attached to any particular game, appearing to be a test list of some kind. So there's a few ways you can read into this. One, Sony is just attempting to bring trophies to their Steam releases, as in, hey, if you have a PlayStation Network account and you sign in, you'll unlock trophies for your account that you have basically had with you since maybe even the PlayStation 3 days when we got trophies enabled and all that. Sure. The other aspect here is they're preparing a world where there is a separate launcher for PlayStation, and that's where you'll unlock your different trophies. Now, to my understanding, with Steam, there are some games that have Xbox achievements and some games that don't. It seems to be kind of, I guess, a mixed bag. If you play, obviously, on like the Microsoft Store, all of that'll work fine. That's typically where I'll pick up these different PC games from Microsoft, considering it's like Game Pass for PC. I'll just download. I mean, it already comes with Windows, right? So I'll just grab it there. But for people who buy it on Steam, they have mentioned that you will still unlock achievements. So sure, it's possible they could go either way. It's possible they could technically do both so that they still support Steam, because it would be a very strange business move to leave Steam unless there is some concern that Microsoft might buy Valve. That came out during the email, some of the different emails from Microsoft with this situation, obviously, with Activision Blizzard. A lot of stuff came out with those leaks. I mean, Valve was being sized up by Microsoft next to, WB, and even Nintendo, apparently. All of that was just kind of them being explained to, hey, we probably can't get Nintendo, but Valve, I mean, it's very possible. So Sony probably has to realize, okay, there might be a future where Microsoft owns Valve and owns Steam, which means that, yeah, technically then we'd be selling on their storefront, and any of these PC games that we release, we're giving them, like a 30% cut. And we already know that Jim Ryan has been somewhat concerned with the, I guess, limited number of games that can sell within that PlayStation console ecosystem. Like, if you just release it on the PlayStation 4, in this case the PlayStation 5, as it builds up its install size, kind of sees it, as he says right here, right now success with the current console model, a really great PlayStation hit. You're talking 10 or 20 million people being able to play that game. He then goes on to say, to kind of gate that audience for the wonderful art, wonderful entertainment that our studios are making, to gate the audience for that at 20 or 30 million frustrates me. I would love to see a world where hundreds of millions of people can enjoy those games, which then also brings us to cloud streaming, which they technically are launching that this month. But we heard about this from Inside Gaming, Tom Henderson, had kind of talked about some pretty serious investments that Sony was making behind the scenes to enable things like 4K, HDR. I mean, they're doing a lot here to try to bring a very high quality experience, relatively speaking, through the cloud, which is still an unproven method to deliver games, but Sony is trying to at least make a serious effort here, whereas before it was definitely half-hearted, right, with the PlayStation Now stuff back in the day. This seems to be a legitimate push in that direction of having something maybe closer to what Stadia did. Look, Stadia got crushed for the content that it offered in the way that they did, and rightfully so, because it just wasn't that appealing. But the quality of the stream for these games, the input, it's actually pretty good. It was best in class next to, I know people tell me that GeForce Now has gone through some substantial upgrades, but Stadia was pretty good, all things considered, when it comes again to cloud streaming. So I look at the cloud streaming stuff. I see the trophy stuff for PC that's being uncovered. I believe eventually that the streaming stuff will make its way to different TVs, probably Sony, like Bravia, that kind of thing. All like the Sony branded TVs, sure. Phones, that would make sense. And also to PC. In fact, if they had a launcher to go alongside of selling games, you can also stream stuff through it. You can sign up for PlayStation Plus, and then they've effectively figured out how to bring their subscription service from PlayStation to PC. It's still a difficult thing to figure out, and I think that's something that Microsoft continues to try to work through. How do we get PC gamers to pay a subscription fee when we can't lock online multiplayer behind it? That's something they can do with Xbox currently, and probably will continue to do so, unfortunately. But with PC, you basically have to show up with content, and technically Sony, if they adapt enough of their games to PC, I mean, yeah, they could have PlayStation Plus, extra, and premium tiers there ready to go. And then it gets a bit more interesting when you realize that Sony has made investments into mobile. All right, and Microsoft has actually purchased, according to them, Activision Blizzard King, specifically because of their mobile stuff. Although, I mean, come on, Call of Duty is part of the package. Obviously, that was a big factor, but apparently the mobile side is something that Microsoft is very, very interested in. And I think part of that is because they do want to launch an Xbox mobile gaming store. Now, if you're unaware, Apple and Google have been kind of going through it right now with regulators because, yeah, they locked down their different phones to this gated community kind of where this walled off garden. You can't have another storefront on their devices. And yeah, it'd be viewed as anti-competitive because it's just one store that they hold up on their hardware. So that's something that's going through to where it seems like regulators trying to break down those walls. And that would enable Microsoft, for example, to have an Xbox mobile gaming application in store. And it would also allow Sony to do the same. And when I see things like them buying Savage Game Studios with the idea, according to them, to bring PlayStation experiences, intellectual properties, to phones, you go, okay, well, are they going to bring like the actual games from Sony, or are these going to be those kind of dumbed down phone experiences? Well, we're seeing Resident Evil 4, we're seeing Village, we're seeing Assassin's Creed Mirage, Death Stranding. By the way, the Decima engine going to iPhone, and it makes you kind of go, oh, well, maybe in like 10 years, we'll have phones that are just playing like these large experiences. And that's the biggest thing I think people need to realize. While we're talking more and more about the here and now, or even maybe the rest of this generation, which we assume is like another 5 years, a lot of these companies are thinking 15 or even 20 years into the future. And right now is a very pivotal moment for Sony, considering Jim Ryan is about to leave to start 2024. And while there's a lot of celebrating online, I do wonder the next person who comes in and takes over as like CEO, president, all this of PlayStation, what their thought process will be when it's time to make more money a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, right? How do they do that with what's become a very expected number of console owners for PlayStation? 100 to 150 million seems to be a general lock unless it's the PlayStation 3, but these are companies, they want to go a bit higher than that and then higher than that. And yeah, eventually they have to look outside of PlayStation because these games are getting more and more expensive and they're taking longer to create. So that's when you hear about things like phones, streaming, PC. I think at this time, Sony behind the scenes is working to kind of pivot to a point where, yes, they do still have their PlayStation hardware. And for people who are concerned, no, I don't think the PlayStation hardware is going anywhere anytime soon. Like I'll probably be 60 or 70 and there'll be another PlayStation to buy. So I think actually in our lifetime right now, we'll probably still always have PlayStation hardware, but I think we'll also see games go to PC day and date. I think maybe even on phones same day, and it all kind of revolve around this PlayStation ecosystem where you have your trophies across all these systems, and you can do cross buy, which would be nice for PC. And I think that's kind of the direction they're going in now. And also, I mean, consider this with PlayStation VR 2. That'd be massive if all of a sudden, oh, you can use that headset with your PC that you own, and you can also buy the games off the PlayStation Store with their little app and launcher. And I mean, at least then that hardware, I think, would find a whole new audience because they're already working to try to create drivers and connections for it right now on PC without any involvement from Sony. So yeah, I think if Sony just flipped the switch and said, hey, go ahead, pick it up and plug it in, you can buy it right off of our store, people would actually try out the headset and pick it up. So I'm certainly curious to see where things go in the second half of this generation with the newly appointed president and CEO at PlayStation, and how things continue to roll along going into the next generation. And I guess where we'll be, say, in 2028 to start it. Will we have a PC launcher, the ability to play or stream these games right there on our phone, have trophies going across, and really really refer to PlayStation as more of a platform across multiple different systems and avenue? Or is it still just that box that we put under our TVs? It's interesting to see how things are kind of adapting as we go along. And to be honest, looking at someone like what Microsoft has done, kind of seems like Sony is also sort of falling in line with the idea that they just got to reach more people, and that might be the strategy to do it. But let me know what you guys think about all this down below. Do you think I'm onto something here with this, or do you believe that Sony will continue to remain just console and hardware first going forward, and that's going to be the strategy even taking them into next generation? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.